So this time we're going to find the zeros. So in order to find the zeros, we got to set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So the first thing I see is negative 1/24, and I'm going to set that equal to 0. This time it has no x, so it cannot equal 0. So that one's out. Next I'm going to do x minus 2 equal to 0, and I'm going to solve it. So I got to add 2 on both sides. So I got x equals 2. And if you notice, this one is squared, so that means I'm going to get that answer twice. Next, I've got x plus 4 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 4. So I got x equals negative 4. Next, we've got the 5x minus 3 equals 0. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So I got 5x equals 3, and then I'm going to divide by 5. So I got x equals 3/5. And then last but not least, I've got 3x plus 8 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 8. So I got 3x equals negative 8. And then I'm going to divide by 3. And I got x equals negative 8/3. So my zeros were x plus 2, x plus 2, x equals negative 4, x equals negative 8/3, and x equals 3/5. Remember, this was degree 5, so we expected 5 answers and we got 5 answers, so that's good. It's really important that right now we can leave these as fractions, but as soon as we start graphing them, we need to know the decimal for them so that we know where to place them. So 3/5, if you type that in your calculator, you'll know that it's 0.6. So that's going to be between 0 and 1. And then 8/3, if you type that in your calculator, you're going to get negative 2.6. So that's going to be between negative 2 and negative 3. So the second one is a little bit more complicated. Let's do the hard one first. So this first part, 1/4, it doesn't have an x, so we don't have to set it equal to 0. The second one, 4x squared minus 5x minus 8 equals 0. Well, this one's a quadratic, so in order to solve it, we've got to factor or use the quadratic formula. Factoring works sometimes, quadratic formula works always, so we're just going to go ahead and do the quadratic formula. So if I plug this into my quadratic formula, which is right here, I need to know a, b, and c. So a is 4, b is negative 5, and c is negative 8. So when I plug it in, I get x equals the opposite of b, so the opposite of negative 5, plus or minus the square root of b squared, negative 5 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is negative 8, all over 2 times a, which is 4. Okay, and the first step we should do is simplify this. So the opposite of negative 5 gives me positive 5, plus or minus the square root. Now if I plug this whole thing into my calculator and just simplify it, I'm going to end up with 153. Next, we simplify under the under the whole thing, which is 2 times 4, which is 8. Okay, so this is the part that most people mess up on. So we have to take the square root of 153, and we have to simplify it. So we have to find the biggest perfect square that fits into it. So the biggest perfect square that fits into 153 is square root of 9, and that would be square root of 9 times square root of 17. Square root of 9 gives us 3, and so we get 3 square root of 17. So when I plug this back in, I'm going to end up with 5 plus or minus the 3 square root of 17 over 8. And there's no GCF I could take out of 5, 3, and 8, so this is just my answer. So that is 2 of my answers. So with this problem, I have 5 plus 3 square root of 17 and 5 minus 3 square root of 17 over 8. So now we need to find the other zeros. So next up we could do x plus 2 squared. So we just set it equal to 0 and solve. So I subtract 2 on both sides, and I got x equals negative 2. Because this is squared, it is twice. And then our last factor is the 3x minus 1 equals 0. You add 1 to both sides, and you get 3x equals 1. Then you divide by 3, and you got x equals 1/3. Okay, so just like before, it was degree 5, so we should have 5 answers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in order to graph this, we need to know the decimals for each of these. So negative 2 and negative 2 are fine. 1/3, if I plug that in my calculator, I'm going to end up with 0.3. Okay, and then I have to plug in 5 plus square root of 17 over 8 and 5 minus square root of 17 over 8. So when you're plugging this into your calculator, it's really important that you do the top. So the 5 plus 3 square root of 17, and then you press equals, then you do divided by 8. So plug that into your calculator and pause the video so you could check it. So welcome back. When I put 5 plus 3 square root of 17 over 8 in my calculator, I got 2.7. And when I did 5 minus 3 square root of 17 divided by 8, I got negative 0.9. So hopefully we got something similar. If you didn't, call me over.